We're live.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Anthony Archie, Tulsa City Councilor for District 2, and you are joining us. It's Wednesday, November 12th, 10:30 for the Urban and Economic Development Committee meeting. I want to welcome those joining us online and in the room. Our first item of business is call the meeting to order. Everyone can make a note that item 7 has been pulled and 10 has been postponed. So item number 2, Susan Crenshaw, we want to welcome her to the table. The appointment to the Tulsa Utility Board, Tulsa Metropolitan Utility Authority, replacing Jim Cameron, whose term expires April 23rd, 2028, from Council District 8. Susan, will you join us? Welcome.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. If you'll just take maybe a few moments to.
Channel 6 is here for you.
That's right. Emery is going to do a little interview afterwards.
Let's move the mic down there. Yeah.
That's right. Just tell us a little bit about who you are and why you want to serve in this role.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Crenshaw. I'm a native Tulsan. I'm a degreed mechanical engineer. I work in commercial air conditioning currently. Once upon a time, I worked for One Oak. I worked in regulated pipelines. I know a lot about gas utility minutia. I spent a lot of my time at One Oak in different compliance roles, both from a sales and from an operations standpoint. So I have a lot of regulatory background from my time there. I have an undergrad in mechanical engineering from Oklahoma State and an MBA from Oklahoma State. I look forward to this opportunity to support the city. I know that I've been informed this board or commission does a great deal of work. It sounds like there's quite a bit of technical work, and I would be pleased to support the city in that manner and give my time to that if you all feel that's appropriate.
Absolutely. Anyone have any questions or comments? Councilor Bingle?
Good grief, another underachiever. So, what is your biggest, I mean, obviously you're well educated. What is your biggest passion?
I spend a lot of time supporting women in science, and I was the board chair for the Tulsa Regional STEM Alliance for a long time. So I always appreciate when I'm in a room of people that believe in science and that try to make good engineering decisions every day. So with respect to this effort, and I do know some of the other trustees on this board, I know of their work, and I know that they are public servants and lending their scientific thinking, their business background, and their support to the city of Tulsa. I think that's really important. I think we all have unique ways that we can share our talents. I think that this is an important way to support the city. Having good infrastructure for our utilities is critically important. I really like my hot shower every morning. I think that there's just a lot that's very important that goes on behind the scenes in this area. And as far as what I'm passionate about, I mentioned women in science, but I'm always interested and a little bit nerdy on what technology advancements are happening in certain fields. And I know in my time at One Oak, even though it may seem boring and mundane, for instance, the ways that we inspected pipelines dramatically changed in the decade that I was at One Oak, whether that meant some of the x-ray technology of how we would go about performing our compliance-related inspections, or just even using drone technology in right-of-way work. I love seeing technology advance, and I think my engineering mind just is naturally curious, so much so that my bedtime reading at 9:15 at night when I go to bed is a lot of times in that vein. So there you go.
Oh, wow. Do you know this guy?
I have met. He's my counselor, and I know who my counselor is.
I know that. And so he always talks about being a spreadsheet nerd. So obviously that's
Follow
probably
the
why you
data.
moved over there. Is that where all the nerds are?
Maybe.
We do live in a very nerdy district.
Yeah, you got to follow the data.
Well, thank you for
Scotch
being
country.
willing to lend your expertise to
We
this.
should do a quiz bowl,
Because I think
4
it's
versus
just
8.
amazing some
Yeah.
of the things that
Challenging.
we're able to do as humans, and it's all due to people like you. So thank you for.
Councilor Bellis.
Thank you.
Oh, please. Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Love
Thanks.
it. Councilor Bellis.
Yeah.
more thanks instead of questions. Let me know if you wanted to be grilled or something. But no, I was just going to voice to my colleagues. I've gotten to kind of serve on different committees or boards or things with Susan in the past and currently, and it's been invaluable. For example, on the Hillcrest board that we're on together, her knowledge, especially when it comes to these infrastructure things, especially knowing our city has so much different aging infrastructure, she provides so much guidance just for one facility that obviously has a number of different elements and different years that things were constructed, and that insight that she lends to as we're making some of those challenging decisions just for a building are so invaluable. So I'm just excited you're bringing all of that knowledge and science and nerdiness to the city as well. It's really going to be helpful. And remind me, you've been on you've served on a commission before. Maybe you just said it, and
So I'm currently on the Women's Commission.
Okay, that's right.
I noticed there were no women on this particular board, so I would be excited to be considered in that regard. But it's been a joy to be on the Women's Commission. Joining this other board, I will be talking with the chair of the Women's Commission as to what she thinks about my ongoing service there. So
Okay.
let's see how that goes.
We know you can
But
do
yeah,
all
I've been,
things at once.
I think I've been on, I think this is my 6th year, so I think I am wrapping a term there. So,
Well, thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Yeah, definitely, thank you for your work. My encounters with you have been through Tulsa Regional STEM Alliance.
Yeah.
My wife, for 7 years, was a middle school science teacher, and you all resourced her abundantly with those scholarships. And so, thank you for your work, and we will be voting on you next week on the 19th of November, and you're welcome to come and speak if you want. And so, thank you so much for.
But you're not required to.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're not required to.
I
yeah.
am actually out of state that day,
Okay.
but thank you very
No
much
worries
for
at all.
the time and what you guys do.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you.
All right. So, item number 3, we have it's such a joy to welcome Counselor Jeannie Q to the table.
Where are you going?
I'm gonna go sit on the women's side. I never got to do that. Come on, girl, come on.
Well, there we go.
That's fine, that's the trick chair.
I love it. She is just meeting and greeting, coming to the table. Appointment to the Route 66 Commission, replacing Christy Kellerhaas, whose term expires July the 1st, 2026, from Council District 2. And Councilor Q, do you just want to share with us, just welcome back to the table. Say whatever you want.
Well, I was one of the original starting founders of the Route 66 Commission, so it means a lot to me. And my experience, I think, being on that commission for 100 days.
I was wondering how long it was going to be.
I know. I was just asking him if I should call her phone or he was going to.
Where were you?
Sorry.
My qualifications, being previously on the commission, I'm on the Route 66 Main Street Advisory Board, I'm on the Route 66 Village Advisory Board, I'm a community board member for Webster High School, and been PTA president.
I don't know.
I have.
Seems a little sussy.
Yes, and I'm looking to go down to work at the day center. They have no nursing openings right now, but she has another position, so, I'm just thrilled, and I want to thank Chris so much and Sarah. They worked so hard to get me back on this commission. I should have dealt with it back in December, but they did an excellent job, because they're on the commissions, Chris is on it, and I don't want to leave Brandon out, so
Brandon, yeah.
yes, so thank you guys for getting me back and getting me on the commission, possibly, if you vote for me tonight.
Possible.
Love it.
We
Anyone
have another week to
anyone
go.
else?
Yes, that's right.
Council-
No, it's not tonight, it's
Oh,
next
that's
week.
right.
Counselor Dr. Wright.
Thank you. Counselor Q, it's always good to have you at our table. And good timing, as 2026 is right around the corner. So
Yes.
I know, it sounds like you didn't ever get off the gas. I hope we'll see Jeannie in the classic car of your choice in this parade. So, of course, I can't imagine that we won't confirm you. I'm just glad you have the time and energy to keep volunteering for us.
Well, thank you. as I say, thank Chris and thank Sarah for, Chris has been on this for quite a while now.
Well,
Counselor Gilbert?
So it's good to have you here, and it's been a while since you and I have been at this table together.
I
So
know.
This is a great moment.
But we talk all the time.
We do.
And I
We
need,
do.
I keep saying I've got to call Laura and Vanessa, but the days go by, so
I know.
I didn't.
But you left something out. Yes, you started the Route 66 Commission, but you also started the car parade, which is going to be part of the centennial event. So I can't imagine anybody better to have on the commission than you, especially right now, getting ready for that event. So thank you for volunteering your time.
Well, I love Tulsa.
Yes, you do.
We love you.
Yeah, absolutely. Counselor Bellis, and then Counselor Lakin.
I'm just so glad someone called your phone.
It wasn't on there, just so you know.
That's a real shame. We should do that again.
It was broadcast.
But no,
I do still get a lot of calls, but.
I was just gonna check because you're ever the creative, shake out a couch cushion and make something happen person. Is there anything related to what, like Route 66 or stuff's coming up that you're like, how are you not all on this? I was in the middle of blank, or there's dollars sitting over here and you should be
Yes.
using them for, like, do you have something that you're like, I just have to check, because again, you've always been able to shake out a couch cushion and find something to get a project done. Is there something we should be looking into, especially for Route 66 right now too, that you're like, someone needs to get on this?
We need to make sure the money stays in the position for the cleanup along the route. And so,
That's good
and
to know.
finally, we're getting our signs up, Bill, the board.
oh, right, yeah, we're
The
closer.
gateways, yeah.
That's good to know.
Well, and your advocacy for the lighting of the oil derrick, that's gonna happen, and we did the pre-bids for the sound panels at the depot, and so. you
That'll
know,
make a difference.
Yes, that's exactly right. One of the things I've learned as a new counselor, it's a baton race. There's so many great things that you handed to me, and my desire is to continue on the legacy that you've left, and to show honor to you while you are here, and so grateful for your work the last 12 years and your entire life.
15.
15, okay, 15. And
But
your
who's
entire
counting,
life in District 2, so.
Feels outdone me.
Let's sales tax overview before that.
Counselor Bangle.
Wait,
I'm sorry, Phil, Counselor Lakin, did you have more to say?
I haven't even said anything.
Oh, I'm sorry.
what do you gotta do on
No,
the-
Just your
you're
presence, Paul.
reflecting a lot of credit to people who got you to this table, and you got yourself to this table. So thank you for everything that you've done.
But it takes a
for-
team. You know, that's
See, you're
always.
still deflecting, just listen. Thank you for everything
Thank
that you've
you.
done for our city, Route 66 and so many other people. Yeah, we're honored to have you on board,
Thank you.
again.
Thank you so much. Counselor Bangle, sorry.
Oh, no. Okay.
I had that turned off, I don't know why.
That was me, I'm sorry.
They y'all are jinxing.
Every meeting. Obviously, we missed that, right?
Yes.
I thought it
And
was
it's the same
important that-
ringtone.
Yeah,
That
it
has
is.
been for the last,
Hey,
I don't know how many
Change
years.
my kid.
Now we just need Krista Patrick's ringtone back at the table.
So,
Sorry.
I thought it was important that Jeannie come back, and Jeannie, I barely knew the lady, she just kept calling and calling and calling to get on this commission. But Jeannie has the history, we're coming up on the centennial, she's done a lot to build up along the corridor, especially in West Tulsa, and so I think it's important for her to continue in that capacity. And I'm just grateful that she's willing and has the time to do that, so thank you for being willing to do that again and come back.
I didn't call you for 7 months because I was working as a nurse, which I now realize I'm too old. But not for a commission.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
You're not working anymore?
So we'll be voting on your confirmation next week, 11/19. Feel free to come and speak. Not required to, but we love to always hear from you,
But
so.
we will time limit you.
Definitely.
Thank you, Counselor.
Your chair, I know you will. Thank you
you
guys
so
so
much.
very much, and I always like to thank the city employees that do so much. And they're what makes this city runs, so.
Yep,
Gotta go
100%.
to this.
Like a squirrel.
Special.
All right,
Love it. Okay.
we'll set a date for later.
Thank you so much, Counselor Q. All right, item number 4, ordinance amending Title 13 of the TRO by adding a new Chapter 5 titled Incident Response Cost Recovery, authorizing cost
Yes.
recovery from at-fault parties for fire department response,
Okay, yep.
establishing
I like
cost
that.
recovery rates.
Obviously, we need them today.
Okay, who is with us? But the fire department is here with us to speak about this.
Yeah, we had this on for last week, so.
Yes, this was on for last week. We didn't get to it, but
Yep.
Oh, blue.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I'll just start by
Oh.
saying we're here
Commissioner
because during the budget process, the fire department brought to the table revenue stream of cost recovery from motor vehicle accidents. So Chief Gardner was tasked out with this project, done a fantastic job with it, and is here to present on it, to get this ball moving forward so we can start actually collecting some revenue. So I'll turn it over to him.
Good morning, councilors. Thank you for having us today. Like Commissioner said, my name is Douglas Carter. I'm the Assistant Chief of the Tulsa Fire Department. So this program really started out by the fire department was asked to look for additional revenue or cost recovery that could help offset our impact on the budget. For those years where we're a little behind on the budget. So one area that we really identified right off the bat was motor vehicle accident recovery cost. And these are things that we do on a daily basis, our responses to motor vehicle accidents. And through our investigation process, we discovered that several states across the nation were already engaged in this process, and that insurance companies already had a line item within their payout that would reimburse fire departments. So as we go forward, try to go forward.
There it goes.
Okay. So looking at how we came about this number, as a department, we respond to over 4,400 motor vehicle accidents every year. And that's been consistent across the last 3 to 4 years that I pulled the records. You'll hear this term a lot, which is Fire Recovery USA. They're a third-party vendor. And as we began our search to determine how we can recover cost, they kept coming to the forefront of our searches. And according to Fire Recovery USA, we're going to be able to recover, really after their administrative cost, based on our numbers, $1.1 to $1.2 million annually. And once again, these are coming from insurance companies, not individuals themselves. This is recovery cost built into insurance companies. This obviously gives us a way to reduce the financial burden on the city and the tax dollars that the citizens are paying each and every day. It also helps, provide some sustainability for the fire department in general, because on motor vehicle accidents, there are several consumables that we use that are just paid for out of sales tax dollars. And this will actually be reimbursed through fire insurance companies and the individuals that are paying for the premiums. As I'll get to a little bit later, but the cost recovery process isn't something new. It's new to Tulsa, which is why we're here talking about it today. But this Fire Recovery USA, they've been around since 2006. So they've had 19 years of recovering costs for not only fire departments, but law enforcement agencies across the nation. There's some local municipalities that already use this program. Obviously, Bixby, Sand Springs, Sapulpa being the closest, and then Tahlequah. There are actually 43 departments across the state of Oklahoma that utilize Fire Recovery USA services. So they have a really good understanding of the processes and what's required to recover cost within the state of Oklahoma. Once again, it just kind of goes into the programs seek to, get reimbursement from at-fault insurance companies, so that people that are not at fault will not be charged the reimbursement fee. And this is really just a way to help help us provide some additional funding for the city to sustain our daily operations. I'll touch a little bit on Fire Recovery USA. I've mentioned them several times. Once again, they were founded in 2006. They're the nation's largest cost recovery company. They're in 43 states. They currently serve over 2,000 different municipalities and more than 40 in Oklahoma. And they are a third-party vendor that the city of Tulsa will contract with, and they provide all the work on the back end. So the city of Tulsa, nor the city of Tulsa employees, anyone, will not have to work with the insurance companies. This third-party vendor works with the insurance companies directly. So it will not require additional staffing for the fire department because they have the people in place to work with the insurance companies. As it relates to Title 13, which was the ordinance that we proposed to be changed, we worked with City Legal. Mr. Blair here helped develop the policy. And some of the key components of that policy, obviously, fees can only be recovered if fault is determined and from the at-fault party if they have insurance. We're not looking to bill people directly. So if people do not have insurance, we're not going to send them a bill directly. We're only going to ask to be reimbursed from insurance companies. We don't want to put any of our citizens or any individuals in a financial hardship if they don't have insurance initially. If there are questions or if somebody wants to contest our recovery costs, they can go, there is an appeal process. It goes through the fire chief, and if they're not satisfied with the response, ultimately it can be taken to the city council, and you all will weigh in on whether we can not collect fees for that particular motor vehicle accident. We'll get into the table of fees, because this is really where several questions come up, and I'll try to hit it at a high level, but if you all have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'll try to get deeper into the weeds if I need to. So these fees were developed using the Tulsa Fire Department operational costs day-to-day. They were used, they also involve FEMA reimbursement as it relates to our fire apparatus on what we can bill per hour for fire department response for our apparatus, and the national insurance billing rates that were provided to us by Fire Recovery USA. So we took all of those different concepts and put them into these rates. As you see, there's level 1 through level 4 response. Level 1 being the most minimal response. And that's our most common response. That's where we're called to a motor vehicle accident. We provide scene safety. We assess the patients on scene. And we pick up really, dry debris, bumpers, tail lights. And once the wrecker hauls the car off, then we go back into service. As you get to level 4, that is the most labor and technically inclusive of all of the levels. Level 4, obviously, it talks about its heavy rescue, its extrication, its utilization of multiple apparatus, and highly specialized rescue tools, most commonly known as like the jaws of life. Most people have heard of jaws of life. That's when we have to utilize the jaws of life in those level 4 extrications. One thing that it is important to note as I go through these different levels, each level, so level 1 is a particular response. Level 2 encompasses all of level 1. So, and with that, a level 2 response where we have to put absorbents down and pick up gas, oil, or any fluids that are on the ground, that will just receive one charge of $785. Even though we're doing level 1 and level 2, we only bill at the highest level possible. If that's, is that?
No stacking of fees.
No stacking of fees. There's going to be one fee. So any one response, say it's a level 2 response where we're called to pick up fluids on the ground. Whether we send one truck or whether we're on the highway where we have a converging approach with 2 apparatus that are responding, it's still only going to be billed at that one $785 fee. So it's not per truck, it's just one fee per incident. So if a call requires 2, 3, 4 apparatus, they're still only going to get one fee. There's not going to be a stacking of fees.
Why not?
Because that is a very good question. And once again, that goes back to the national insurance billing rates of what we can recover per incident. So there's a max recovery fee. Does anybody have any questions on the fee, or would you like me to go deeper into the
Councilor
fees?
Dr. Wright, did you have maybe something to add right there?
I just wanted to ask on the 1.1 to 1.2, are we already budgeted on this fiscal for that full recapture?
I believe, to be accurate,
I think we're budgeted for 550 for this year,
Okay.
knowing that we were gonna have to go through this process. So
Okay.
we half-yeared it for this year.
We did a half year.
A half year, that's what
We did a
Mike
half
went
year.
like this.
So, well, as long as we come in January, we're good to meet that projection potentially. And then, the revenue recapture, will that be, back into the fire budget or just go general fund?
General fund is the,
Yeah.
yeah, the avenue for that.
Okay.
And
Council-
it's important to, on the recovery of fees as well, talking with fire recovery, there's about a 4-month delay from the time that the initial incident is entered into their software before they actually get the money. So even if we started January 1st, it would likely be April or May before we started seeing those funds from January to start hitting the budget.
Councilor Hall Harper?
Are the fees that are billed, who exactly are those billed to? The people that were involved in the accident?
They will go directly to the insurance companies. The individuals that are involved in the accident will have no correspondence with fire recovery at all.
Okay, so the mere fact that an accident occurred, then this is insurance that we can claim?
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So fault or anything like that is not taken into consideration?
What's that, I'm sorry?
Fault,
The fault is determined by the insurance companies.
they do.
They do all that. My understanding, maybe Commissioner could speak to this a little bit better, but, we'll be on scene, the TPD will do their reporting, and all that information is sent to the insurance companies, and at that point, fault is determined. And that's where fire recovery comes in on the back end and works with the insurance companies for that at-fault determination and then the recovery of funds.
Okay, so yeah, that was one of my other questions when, on the slide that talked about the process of collecting data and submitting it. That's actually what TPD does, not the fire department?
We'll get there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
We've got a
that's-
few more to
Oh, I
get
thought it
through
was
there.
already,
Yep.
oh.
Yeah, and in fact, that's the next slide I just put up.
Okay.
So, how the process works is once, Tulsa Police Department, Tulsa Fire Department, we respond to the incident. It concludes, we go back to the station. We obviously enter that information into our typical reporting software. And then fire recovery, they have a cloud-based software that they will provide us a link to. And much of that information that we provide in our typical software can be copied over to their software. So they have their own software, it's cloud-based. Our firefighters will enter that information,
When you say our software,
which is,
who's our?
City of Tulsa, ESO is our reporting software for,
It's not the TPD references.
it's not TPD, no, we are independent of TPD.
Oh, I know that.
Software, yeah.
It's good.
So,
So,
yeah, TPD's collision data goes into a state-based, it's a state form, and so it's a state database. That investigation is factual reporting. Violations are cited and contributing factors are noted on that collision report, but ultimately at fault is determined by an insurance company, because there can be like percentages of at fault as well when it comes to like payouts. And so the TBD collision report, along with this additional data that fire has that we'll upload to Fire Recovery USA, both of those collected together will now be part of the insurance company's report.
Councilor Gilbert, before we get too far down, do you have a question?
Yeah, just real quick, so I'm glad that you brought that up because, well, number one, thank you for coming to the table finally. Secondly, and thank you for responding to Rex even during when it's raining. I appreciate that. But, so how is this going
Is that
to?
shade?
Huh?
Sure sounded like.
Yeah.
How is this how is this going to work during slick streets when you, because you all will be responding, but there might be the possibility that TPD won't be responding. So will it be up to you all as the first responders to put in that report into that database and then send it over to the, what is it, the fire recovery?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And some of that I don't have an answer to. I can follow up and
Okay.
get you an answer. What I do know is that what we will do is we'll collect the name and insurance information from the parties involved, which we typically don't now because we're not involved in this process. But we'll collect that information, and then when we input that into fire recovery system, they'll follow up with the insurance companies. So a lot of times, the people that get those forms from Quick Trip on Slick Streets, they will follow up with their insurance companies on the back end as well. So their insurance company should be aware that, hey, an incident had taken place, and then they'll look at, I'm sure, pictures or whatever process they go through now to determine at fault.
So, but you guys will be taking the information on site, because not always do those individuals go and fill out a report.
Yeah, the only two new pieces that fire department's going to have to do on scene is collect the name of the drivers
Yep.
and an insurance company.
Okay.
And then, so they will still enter their report like they always have, the run report, just documenting the response, and then the additional information that will be uploaded to Fire USA that will trigger that response to collect these fees.
Okay, all right, thank you. Sorry, went on a touchy subject.
No, you're fine.
And it is just for the fire response, so on
It
something
doesn't
like
include-
Slick Streets, if there is no fire response, if it's two parties that just trade some paint and pull into a parking lot, rectify it themselves and file a report, then there is no cost recovery because there's no fire response.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Counselor Bangle, do you want to jump in?
Yeah,
before-
I just want to ask a quick question, Chief.
Yes, sir.
You implied that basically this was a line item that was already part of insurance that we just hadn't been taking advantage of previously, if I understood that correctly?
That's correct. That is the information that I've received from fire recovery, that is built into the insurance, the premium you pay every month, that is factored in. That insurance companies typically don't pay out, and we just have not been, capturing that money.
Okay, so basically, if I were to have an accident and I was found at fault, this was something that was already baked into my policy to begin with?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay.
Insurance companies.
We just didn't have a mechanism
We
to
just,
go get it.
exactly,
Yes.
so that's what I want
That's
to
a
make sure
smart way
that
to
folks
bring
are
in revenue.
aware of, that when you see the cost in your increase in your premiums, this was already something that was baked into your premium and your policy. This isn't in
coverage,
an
yeah.
addition,
Right.
that they have to now go out and find additional coverage for.
Mm-hmm.
This was already something that pre-existed.
That's correct, and I'll touch on that a little bit, because working with fire recovery, there are several things that can increase the cost of your premiums, age, demographics,
Sure.
geography. One of the things that, according to fire recovery, that does not increase the cost is the actual cost of the claim. So if it was a $10,000 claim before and it's a $10,710 claim now, that's not going to be the driver of the cost increase. It'll be the increase that you actually had an accident, but the additional fee payout for fire recovery won't help drive that cost.
But in most people's eyes, they're gonna see how much did my insurance company pay out on the claim.
Yes.
As being the determinant.
Well, and we've
Right.
just been leaving it on the table
Yeah,
because we didn't
exactly.
have a mechanism to
Yep.
capture it.
Yeah,
It's not their fault that your premium went up for having 6 wrecks in 1 month.
I can't count for it.
Have so many cats in the car.
Counselor Gilbert?
Exactly. Just real quick, so going back to the Fire Recovery USA, is there an admin cost for using them? I mean, does the city?
so their fee is paid, they
They
recover
take-
their fee, take it off the top.
Okay, so do they take it off the top for each wreck? Let's say that the fire department responded to 30 wrecks in the month of September. So would there be an admin fee from every call, every accident, or is it just once a month? How is that
Well,
admin cost?
Flat fee.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Essentially, it's going to be taken off every call.
Okay.
But they're going to send the city of Tulsa a check once a month.
Right,
It's
right.
percentage.
But it will be taken off.
Okay.
Their fee is built in for
So,
each individual call.
Okay,
Yes,
okay. I just wanted to,
yes,
So they're motivated to get the claims through,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Because they're getting a percentage off of it.
yes. And I'll touch on it here in just a minute. And those $1.2 million numbers that we projected for this presentation, that's based on a 50% recovery. And according to Fire Recovery USA, across the nation, they average anywhere from 50 to 75% recovery rates. We wanted to, we didn't want to overpromise on what we could do. So, but based on the information that we collect, the information that TPD collects, Fire Recovery felt like we could be in that 55, 60, 65% recovery rate. So there's an opportunity to be higher than our $1.1 to $1.2 million. But we wanted to shoot low and just say, hey, this is what we think we can do. And then if we come in above budget, great.
Even better. Well, sort of, but
Right. Yeah.
just don't be throwing squirrels out on the highway.
Continue on.
Okay. Kind of really talking about, it was brought up whether, what we need as a department to help facilitate this. One of the questions was, do we need additional staffing? And the answer is no. The information that we'll collect is already collected and input into different software reporting, in a different software right now by our fire companies. So all the reporting on the front end will already be done. We don't need additional staffing for that. The one thing that we will need to do is document the tools and equipment we use on scene. Anytime we have to launder our structural firefighting gear, those are costs that will determine whether it's a level 1 or a level 2 response. So that's where we will need to be extremely diligent in how we document what we use and what equipment is utilized on scene so that we can bill the insurance companies accordingly. And then everything else is done on the back end, and that's built into their fire recovery's pricing structure.
Can I ask a real quick question on that? Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
But, so let's say that a tractor trailer had spilled over. So is the insurance company also going to get billed for the response for the wreck and then hazmat?
They typically, they could, yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Or cleanup of the things that they spilled.
Well, that's hazmat.
That would be some of the hazmat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, what if they're non-hazardous? That still falls within that realm?
You want to touch
Like
on that?
tomatoes, like.
Yeah.
There's one where the.
There's a cleanup.
Only paper towels,
Right.
paper products.
Yeah, there is a cleanup cost for that. They will have whatever sooner remediation or whatever, another third-party company that can come and help clean up. So they would get billed for that side, then we would go ahead and send them a bill for our response as well.
But if it is hazardous material, then they get billed hazmat
Right.
and, okay.
Yeah, our hazmat response team can bill them specifically for certain hazardous materials.
Thank you, sorry.
Oh, you're perfectly
I won't
fine.
interrupt anymore.
No, you're great. Some of the frequently asked questions that we would just want to put out there, obviously, what percentage of incidents have fault determined? That was extremely hard to gather, but working with fire recovery, we just use that 50% collection rate. So that 50% of the incidents we respond to will recover cost. Hopefully, it's more than that. Hopefully, it's in that 60 to 65% range with the information TPD provides. They're very thorough on their documentation. Once again, additional staff we don't need because it's a third-party vendor that will administrate everything on the back end. We already have the people that can input that information on the front end. You asked the question earlier about the 1.1 million to 1.2 million of the budget still correct. Obviously not this year because we're not able to go back to the start of the fiscal year. We can only begin collections as soon as the ordinance is adopted, obviously by the city council, and it is working through city purchasing at this time, going through all the steps that they need so that we're trying to do things concurrently. That way, if you all adopt it, we're ready to put it in place and start collecting funds. We touched on whether insurance rates will increase due to the new ordinance. It's built into the claim right now, or it's built into their premium. So just from our collection of, our recovery of funds, there should not be a price increase to individuals' insurance premiums. The fee schedule that I touched on earlier, operational cost, and the national insurance billing rates provided by Fire Recovery. And probably the big one that we get asked a bunch is, will uninsured motorists be billed? And no, the way we worked with Mr. Blair and the way we developed the ordinance was uninsured motorists will not be billed. We're only going to try to collect reimbursement from insurance companies.
Wonderful. Any additional questions? Counselor Gilbert?
I do, sorry to be the Karen of the group today. So,
Today.
every day. So this question is really for Mr. Blair. So once if this is approved on the,
This week,
yeah.
the first reading last week.
Oh, that's true? Okay, so if this is approved tonight, yes, we did. I forgot about that. If this is approved tonight, how soon can they start working with recovery?
So the ordinance would take effect, it doesn't include an emergency clause, so 30 days after publication. But it sounds like they're working through the procurement process anyway, so it would likely time out just about right, where they'll get their contract in place about the time that the ordinance is effective.
Okay, so we don't need to add an emergency clause to it to get it done sooner rather than later?
It doesn't sound like it, but you certainly could.
Okay.
Okay,
Any other,
thank you.
Okay,
Counselor?
the okay didn't clarify it for me. Do we need to add it or not add it?
I mean, we could add it if there's.
Just in the motion, even though it
Yeah.
isn't posted?
Yeah, we can add it to the backup.
Is that the suggestion here at the
Seems smart.
table?
I would make that suggestion just so that we can.
Keep it moving.
Yeah, keep it moving and get it going sooner rather than later. So, I mean, if they already have everything ready up and going, just waiting.
Is it already a contract, has it already been contracted with the third party? Well, that could take 60 days.
It has not, that's what we're working
Or
through
2
purchasing
years,
with,
depending
and,
on what the project is.
Okay.
yeah, so
So we
I
may
can
not
follow
need
up with purchasing and see
But
where they are in the process.
if we get this, I mean, do they have to wait that 30-day period to work with the contractor to get that through? They can do that as soon as it's approved? Okay.
So they can get everything in place with an effective date that's the same as the ordinance.
Okay. Okay, then maybe we don't need the emergency clause if
Because
if it
purchasing.
has to
Yeah.
go through purchasing.
We'll have to, we'll have to write a sole source on it because we have looked for other options and explored all that, any other vendors for the service, et cetera. So it's gonna have to go through that process.
Okay.
So
Let it work through its process
Okay.
without the
all right.
emergency.
Counselor,
60 days or 6 months.
Counselor Hall Harper?
So, someone mentioned that half of this was already budgeted?
550, I think was what we put in this year's budget, knowing we were gonna have to go through this process.
So what is that for?
That is for the cost recovery for 6 months, basically.
It'll go in the general fund.
It's in the
Right.
general fund.
Right.
The revenue will go in the general fund.
But if the insurance, if the
You
insurance.
said we budgeted 550
Revenue.
1,000,
for,
just in the general fund for this coming in.
right, but the funds we're talking about is gonna come from, that we're going to,
Correct.
so what did we budget 550 for ahead of time? For? To
Because
be
we
used for-
anticipated this. This was a proposal made by the fire department to
So
collect.
we haven't collected that yet?
No. This ordinance will allow us to start collecting it, knowing we had to move through this process, we only half-yeared it. So we anticipated it kicking off around January 1st.
Okay.
Next year, we will plan to budget 1.1, 1.2, or have a much more accurate number based on our 6 months of collection.
What, I guess what, to piggyback off that question, turn the mic on. The $500,000 which was budgeted was us covering the fees. But with this action,
It was us anticipating that we were gonna launch this program.
Oh, okay.
Let me try to explain it.
projection.
So in July, when we all voted on a budget, in the revenue side, they had already had this idea that they could do a cost recovery. They paced it out. They weren't gonna be able to start on July 1 because we have to pass an ordinance, which is before us today.
Right.
That's why we're having a conversation about adding the emergency clause. That would make it go a little faster. But there's a contract involved. Chief Baker needs to do a sole source agreement, which means we looked in the marketplace and there's only one person or one entity that can provide the service. So 550,000 is half of 1.1 million. So feasibly, we could start collections in January if we get through this ordinance and we get the sole source contract in place. They're gonna go out and start doing the insurance collections. Their third party's gonna take their fee off the top and remit back to us the remainder, and that should add up to about $550,000 by June 30th of this year. And
So it'll be a wash.
well, no, it should do what we think it will do, which is it'll bring in the amount of dollars that we said it would. Now, if we look at it and it's not, and it's coming over or under, we'll budget for fiscal year
I think what
28.
Counselor Paul Harper is basically saying, if we budgeted the 550 up front, this next 6 months will just kind of.
Be a wash.
make it
We've
a
already
wash.
spent the
Yeah,
money.
yeah, no, yeah,
Right?
not necessarily.
Well,
Yeah.
Allocated.
We've already planned to spend money.
Right, it's in our
Yes,
budget.
it was
Correct.
contemplated.
Yeah.
Yes, it
So
was
we're not
revenue.
getting
contemplated.
anything more.
No, it's not added to
No,
it.
but if you
After the
don't have it,
550.
if you don't have it may be less.
Correct. Yes, if we don't get this in
Yeah.
place, we'll be in the whole 550
Yeah.
at the year end. But we might have fund balances we can use to cover it if we're allowed to, so we can have that conversation in May.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much for this presentation. Thank you so much, Mr. Roberts. All right, moving on to agenda item number 5. Ordinance amending the fiscal year 25-26 budget to transfer available appropriations of $500,000 between departments, projects, and account groups within the ARPA subfund. And Jared from Budget is with us.
Well, Jared from Budget.
Do you want him to read the next one too?
Yeah, I was gonna suggest.
Counselor, can you also read the next item?
Oh.
They kind of are related.
Great, item number 6, very efficient. Ordinance amending the fiscal year 25-26 budget to transfer available appropriations of $500,000 between departments, projects, and account groups within the Pandemic Relief Recovery Fund, Housing Assistance, and Emergency Shelter.
Yes, so this is at its basic premise, just swapping $500,000 from CRF with $500,000 from ARPA. We'll be taking $500,000 from municipal courts, position funding for their court services, and we're taking that from CRF, moving it over to ARPA, and moving homeless services from planning neighborhoods over into CRF. It's where it washes out, but essentially the purpose of this is to purchase the county property from the CRF funds because it does not come with the limitations that ARPA has due to federal regulations on disposition of properties. So purchasing it from CRF will allow everything to transition more smoothly. We discussed this briefly with the small budget group, but happy to take questions here.
Any questions? All right. Item number 7 has been pulled. Item number 8, thank you so much, Jared. Item number 8, resolution approving the allocation of affordable housing trust funds in an account not to exceed $700,000 to assist in construction, rehabilitation, and improvements, including 145 affordable housing units pursuant to the agreement to provide development assistance.
So hold on a second. Did we do 5 and 6?
Yeah, they were combined.
Yeah, we
Okay,
put it together.
7's been pulled.
So, yes. And then also, 10 has been postponed.
10 has been postponed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, you guys can.
You were late.
Yeah, sorry. I should have told you all.
Development assistance for affordable housing trust funds between the City of Tulsa and Teo in accordance with the Economic Development Incentive Policy of the City of Tulsa. Is it Aaron? Are you presenting? All right. Welcome to the table.
You're presenting for Teo?
Oh.
It's city funding through Teo.
I got you.
Okay. Oh, you got
I
up?
was confused there for a second.
I thought you were.
And in fact, I'm gonna let the Teo crew
Good
speak.
morning, yes.
Good morning, yeah.
Well, the item is just related to a resolution that amends the contract between City of Tulsa and Teo related to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So anytime that a project, affordable housing project, uses the city side of the funding within the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, we need to amend the agreement between the two parties to allocate that funding. So this particular project is what we call Trinity Trails. It's in District 1, 145 units that will be delivered. It's formerly a THA housing site that only about half of the units were habitable at the time of purchase by the new developer. Going forward, they've actually started redevelopment of the site and rehabilitation. All of the units will be 60% and below AMI affordability. It's a LIHTC project, and they look to be completed in January of 2026.
And I want to note that every time we have these incentive meetings on these projects, the city councilor from that district is also part of that decision-making process. So Councilor Harper was part of this process.
And if I can add, all 145 units have vouchers.
Councilor Dexter Wright?
Thank you. Question about, just help me remember, on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund dollars, those are loans that get paid back over time, or are those grants that just go out one way? And what's the terms of the loans, like 15?
So this one in particular is 15 years, just
15
because
year.
it has to be coterminous with their LIHTC lending. The period of affordability will actually be 40 years, because that's also a requirement
Okay.
of a LIHTC project. But the terms in the agreement state 15 years affordability
Okay.
period.
And is that affordability based on pricing or on tenants'
The income of
qualifications?
the income of the tenants. yes.
Okay. And is this developer already in agreement on other affordable trust funds, or is this the first time?
They're the first time.
Okay. It's come to my attention that there might be some developers who have accessed these funds before and might not always be on pace to pay them back, and I think when that happens, we need to be aware so that we're not on a separate project, right? So that's why I'm asking those questions. I think this sounds good. We obviously need it. And the 40-year affordability threshold is because it's through HUD?
Tax credits.
Right, they're getting the tax credits for low income tax.
So they're
housing.
doing a federal, state, and local stack?
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Great. Item number 9, discussion with representatives from Housing Partnership Network, city and council staff, or their designees regarding the economic incentive policy for the IoT3 housing funds.
Jeff and I are gonna come sit down here.
Welcome, Sarah. Welcome, Jeff.
Why, you don't want to sit by me?
That's where I was going.
Can't see the screen.
I can't see you all over there from down there.
Thank you, Mr.
Travis and Jean, you can come up if you want to too.
James?
Can you put you on there?
Can we sit on the girl side?
Just joining us. Oh.
It's a full table.
This is the full table. I'm waiting on, we have, Katie Rodriguez from Housing Partnership Network is also joining us by Zoom. Can you hear us, Katie?
I can you hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Great.
So this is a two-part presentation that we are we are going through today. So I'm gonna kind of frame where we were and how we got here, and then Jeff is going to present on behalf of HPN in their presentation. Do you not have the documents?
They're in the backup.
No, well, not in my notebook.
They're not in the backup. I mean,
They're in the digital
on
backup.
the digital, yeah.
Oh,
So they must have
After we
arrived
sent it.
after
Sorry.
Aids
We'll
printed
get 'em.
everything out.
That would be helpful.
well, I normally would print out.
We're getting them.
You got to hold it with my hands.
So I'll get started on this first part, and then I'll give it to Jeff. So, on how we got here, it's been a pretty long process. Many of you are obviously aware that we had the 3H task force, which focused on housing, homelessness, and mental health. The task force was about a 1.5-year process that consisted of 28 meetings with 50 different stakeholders, experts, a town hall, multiple press conferences. And the end result when we talked to all of those stakeholders was we really need housing production. If there was one thing that the city could do and help with, it would be housing production. At the same time, the city was going through the housing assessment. And the housing assessment, what it did is it told us what our need was over the next 10 years. Then another simultaneous effort, we have Improve Our Tulsa 3. Ultimately, that designated 75 million of those funds, and that's why we're here today, is to talk about the incentive policy around those funds for housing. But we weren't quite finished at that time with our study, and so that ordinance that went through the Brown ordinance on Improve Our Tulsa said the 3H task force should finish their recommendations and come forward with a resolution essentially lining out funding buckets for the Improve Our Tulsa housing funds. The 3H task force finishes when issues the Path to Home recommendations, which had 33 action steps. And then at that same time, I think it was maybe just the very next week, the housing strategy finishes, and they also tell us how we should utilize those funds. So the tail end of the 3H task force was really digging into the housing strategy, the cities that they looked at, so the task force can understand those better, and then ultimately developing the resolution. So to dive a little bit more into a couple of those items, you all have seen this graphic many times, I think. I don't even know how many times maybe. That we need over the next 10 years an additional $370 million in investment. Some of the public money that is already represented there in that $23 million are public programs that we already have in place, LIHTC, things like that. So the additional funding gap is above and beyond that at $37 million a year. In the resolution that you all adopted, there were several guiding principles, and you saw a lot of those principles articulated in the RFP that was put out. You also will see later, not to spoil Jeff's presentation, you'll see some of those same, if not exactly those same principles articulated in the economic incentive policy that came forward. But really key was we needed to leverage, right? That's why we went and looked for a third-party administrator, because our natural talent here isn't fundraising and leveraging. We really needed that additional assistance. Looking for geographic distribution, reducing vacant and abandoned properties, that we will track the outcomes of these programs. And then actually on revolving loans, this has come up a little bit in some other loans. You've actually made that policy statement already, that when program income comes back, and there won't be program income on all of these because some of these are grants, but on those that do revolve and come back, that those would come back to a designated housing fund. So you've stated that policy. And this is just a quick reminder of the funding program. So this table is from the resolution that you passed. When we went out for the RFP, and Councilor Paul Harper and Councilor Gilbert sat on the RFP review committee as well. We did it for 4 of the 5 funds, so the grant fund, investment, acquisition, and the preservation and rehab. The infrastructure fund is currently planned to stay at the city on for those. So you've also maybe seen this table before as well. There's 3 key decision points that the council has. So we're on the first one today, which is the incentive policy. There's an ordinance you all passed, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, in Title VI, that essentially states any sales tax funds that are for the purpose of incentivizing economic development, and housing is within that portion. Can you hand these to the councilors? And they need the PowerPoint too. Derived from sales tax for the purpose of incentivizing economic development to third parties. The council, through resolution, and the mayor needs to approve those processes and those policies. And that is regardless of whether the city administers those or a third-party entity also administers those. Once you all are comfortable with the economic incentive policy, we'll ask to do the first appropriation. And so if you'll remember in this year's budget, there was $14 million in Improve Our Tulsa 3 funds that were coming online. Those still need to be appropriated, and we're going to do that after the budget amendment. Do you want me?
I think one of them was for Counselor Archie.
Oh, is that right? Is it 2?
There was
No.
three copies.
Yeah, I don't have any in my deck.
I think there's 3 counselors that get paper. One is not Counselor Bellis.
I think we're sharing.
So your papers have to come to Counselor Archie.
I thought she would make us off everybody.
I'll share it. It is linked in the PDF.
Yeah. It's okay, I'll just go.
Sorry for that. There was confusion ensued.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, everything's fine.
We're all okay now?
Everything's
Okay.
good, everything's fine.
So,
I will use my laptop.
14 million dollars is available this year. If you all
Say
are
it again.
$14 million in housing funds available this year. On July 1st, because people were very proactive in setting this schedule, $19 million more will be available in the housing funds. So the housing funds and Improve Our Tulsa 3 are advanced. They're pretty loaded up on the beginning end of the capital schedule. And then the last decision will be bonding. We're not asking or recommending that you bond right at this point because those 14 million are available. So when we are looking to begin our contract and our relationship with HPN, we're trying to get that 14 million available so they can meet the OFA application deadlines.
Can you say this again? 14 million are available right now, and then starting July 1, are we at 19 or 19 will accrue through
An additional 19
Come on
will
in
become available if you choose to
And
appropriate
so
it.
that's 33 total.
Mhm.
But some of these dollars are already restricted as per our policy.
These are all housing funds restricted in the Improve Our Tulsa 3 sales tax.
Okay.
And what we're working on right now is developing that policy for their administration. Does that make?
July 1, 33.
Mhm.
So is this
almost like we've done
this
this for
part of
20 years.
the funds that we kept at the city, or this is part of the funds for the network?
So they are at.
They will be.
They are at the city right now, and then they will be moved over to the network when we get our contract
All of
in
it?
place. The
33.
first 14 million.
Oh, just the first 14?
Mhm.
What about the 19?
I anticipate a large portion of that, if not all of that, would also go over there into these different programs. Unless we have a major infrastructure project that comes up.
Which
You
infrastructure
said
was
not-
15,
Right, you
right?
said infrastructure's not in there, right?
25.
25 for the infrastructure,
Mhm.
and that
Total.
stayed with us, the city.
Mhm.
Is that what a portion of those funds that, what we just voted on in the previous agenda item?
No, no.
Those are
It says-
affordable housing.
Those are affordable housing trust fund dollars, which is a different,
Okay.
separate pot
It's
of
a
money.
tail pot of money.
Mhm.
They existed before these 75
Before
million.
that, okay.
Yes.
The ones that
We were kind of like,
they
that's a
created.
good idea.
Yeah.
Let's scale it
Mhm.
Yeah.
in IoT 3.
Yeah. Any other questions
Councilor
about?
Bellis, were you gonna say
about
something?
that? Okay.
For once.
So, and just to remind us, back in the spring, remember we made a schedule of how we were gonna work through these things. So this is really what we're doing today is the end result of that work and those discussions that we had. We overviewed the housing funds. We gave a high-level overview of those 4 cities: Charlotte, Omaha, Columbus, Greenville. That's my favorite one too. I forgot it. Those 4 funds, and we went through that process. We talked about advantages and disadvantages of bonding because there are both in that. And then we talked about what are our goals, or the things we really want to see in a successful RFP candidate, and also in our incentive policies. And so recapping some of those themes, again, we really wanted to see housing production. We really wanted to see someone that could leverage these funds. And we wanted to produce those housing units at the rate and at the pace that we need to meet the housing demand that has been here and is critically here today. And then the last 5 bullet points under leverage, those are things that came up in our discussion of the RFP, but they are really kind of more appropriate for the economic incentive policy because those really lean towards project selection. What kind of projects do we want to incentivize? And so the first one was the applicant's property management or history. I kind of call that community standards. Do they live up to what we're really trying to get our community to do? Do they have code enforcement problems? Do they have utility account issues? Have they not performed well on past city contracts, or have they performed in the reverse? Are they excellent on all these things and they've performed positively? Since housing production is a need, is the infrastructure capacity and what is the zoning designation? Are those things going to cause delay, or does that maybe make a project more ready? Community and counselor engagement were key in this as well. Long-term project accountability, I think it was Counselor Dr. Wright and Counselor Gilbert maybe who said, I don't want a project to start and sit there. Maybe all of you did, but I specifically remember you two saying this, that we don't want to start a project and the project not actually fulfill our housing need. And then long-term compliance and reporting, obviously, just as in Affordable Housing Trust Fund, these are going to have a time period that they have to remain compliant pursuant to their agreements, and then you need to be informed on the progress of those agreements as they go on. And then that is it for me, and I'm going to pull up Jeff's presentation. Does anybody have any questions on that overview?
I have a question on the long-term compliance. So just on this last discussion we had, right, there's a capital stack, local, state, and federal. Who's doing the long-term look that the affordability remains, that the standard, I mean, obviously we have code enforcement, but is that what this third party does?
So Katie will talk about it a little bit. It depends on the full stack. And so the project you heard from our friends at Partner Tulsa had low-income housing tax credits, and that's what carries the 40-year term. And so part of that is that the Treasury, who issues tax credits, has that hook on long-term compliance and affordability. It just depends. And so if there weren't any, then obviously the third party would have to speak to that.
One of the concerns that's regularly voiced about multifamily specifically is that in Tulsa, we have a pattern and practice of building a thing. It's nice to begin with, and then it dilapidates over time, changes ownership, bad actors come in. Some of that is beyond our control because there's state lack of regulations that allow that environment. But when it's our dollars that are going in, are we only able to do compliance up to the term of our dollars, the 15?
Generally speaking, if you did longer, there's conversations on, obviously, the administrative costs of doing longer.
Okay.
And so it is a push and pull, but generally what you typically see is that if it's a loan, I mean, grant may be a little different, it's the term in which you set the initially.
As long as
you've
we
got
have
to
the
pull that,
purse
right.
still. So for us and the public's understanding, where the accountability piece then kicks in is that multifamily inspection, and the code
Absolutely.
enforcement piece is the long-term accountability. It sounds like, from a city mechanism right now.
Yeah, outside of that servicing period,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I will introduce Katie again and just get us started. She'll do quite a bit of this, and so I want you to hear from the expert herself. But I will say real quickly, a little bit of privilege. Thank you to the council yesterday for the VA dedication and the support you gave that project for the past several years. It was a great event, but I really appreciate what the council did for that project, so thank you. And so, first off, Jeff Hall, Anthony Zero Foundation, why am I here? I am not with HPN, I'm not with the city. We supported with an initial grant to bring HPN to Tulsa to consider what does it look like to have flexible financing at scale in Tulsa, and this obviously coincided with the Tulsa housing strategy. And then we're the lead donor with this new fund that Katie will speak about, and how do you really bring together public and private dollars to a greater impact. So appreciate Katie joining us, and obviously they'll be here in person next week if the conversation continues. Katie's the Executive Vice President, Capital Markets, and is really the brainchild behind this work. So.
Thanks, Jeff. And I think you all can see the slides, but not me. But I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. It's nice to see all of you, some familiar faces there. So as Jeff said, I am here from the Housing Partnership Network. I want to share a little bit more about our organization, the Tulsa Housing Impact Fund that we're building, and the role those organizations will have in administering these funds. Jeff, do you want to go to the next slide? So here is the executive summary. This is a little bit of a roadmap of what we want to walk through. Sarah covered some of the purpose of the policy. I really want to walk through our role as administrator, a little bit more about the program structure, how we're thinking about that, a little bit more of the governance of the funds, and we're getting into the compliance and monitoring as already been raised. Next slide, Jeff. The Tulsa Housing Impact Fund is a new entity. It's been formed to accelerate the development of affordable housing in Tulsa through public and private investment capital. We're targeting this fund at $120 million. It's a mix of private capital that can also leverage this public capital. What we're looking to offer developers is a collaborative application process, so developers can come to us with projects that may have a couple different financing needs, and we can do that all at one stop. And the hope there is to really accelerate the financing process and get those projects moving in development as quickly as possible. There is a mix of financial products, loans, grants, and also some equity products. With initial projections, we're hoping that $120 million could finance close to 3,000 units. Next slide, Jeff. Here's a little bit more about the structure of the fund. There is a board in place. We're aiming to have 9 to 12 board members with a variety of experience across housing, local experience here in Tulsa, finance development. We have a majority of the board members are based in Tulsa. And then HPN is the fund manager. So HPN's role is really staffing the operations of the fund. So this includes structuring the fund, supporting the governance of the fund, investment strategy, capital raise, underwriting and deploying investments, asset management, compliance, and investor relations. Next slide, Joe. And a little bit more about the Housing Partnership Network. So if we take a step back, HPN's role in the affordable housing ecosystem is we're a membership organization. We have affordable housing developers and community development financial institutions investing in housing across the country. And my part of the organization really focuses on managing capital that's being invested into affordable housing and also connecting developers to financing opportunities. We are rated by Fitch in our management of funds. We have an A+ rating by Fitch. We are also rated by ARIS, which specifically rates CDFIs. We have a AA- rating from them. And we currently manage over $400 million in loans and investments, particularly 2 loan funds that are already doing affordable housing investment across the country. And sorry, I thought I heard something. Yeah, pipe in if you have a question. And as the fund manager, I mentioned that we'll be providing a variety of services. That really is the operations of running the loan fund. Next slide, Jen. So So this is an illustration of the structure of the fund. In the middle, really trying to highlight that this is an independent nonprofit corporation directed by its board of directors. HPN's role is as the manager of the fund. Along the right side, you see the variety of investors. We are talking to banks, CDFIs, family office, impact investors. We have had great success with the philanthropic community in Tulsa. We're now having conversations with national philanthropy to bring those funds in. And then government, which is what we're here discussing today. Along the bottom is a sampling of the types of products that this fund will offer. So above and beyond the city IoT3 funds, we'll be using the other capitalization to provide a variety of loan products to developers.
And I'll jump in real quickly for the counselors who were part of 3H conversations. This is the same structure you saw in Charlotte and Dallas and several other cities where you have this entity that's got a very much local control and dedication with a national expert running the operations of the fund.
Thanks, Jeff.
They most certainly could, sorry.
The next slide shows the board members. You may recognize some of these names. There are folks here representing the Tulsa community. We have Chuck Garrett, Josh Miller, Bill Major, Gina Stilp, and Berlinda Radney are our Tulsa representatives right now on the board. And then we have Robin Hughes, who's the president and CEO of the Housing Partnership Network. And then we have 2 executives from HPN members from other parts of the country, also representing this board and bringing and lending their expertise. Andrea Osgood is an affordable housing developer. She is working in California right now, but grew up in Tulsa and has close ties and is very excited to be able to come back and be serving the community in this capacity. Lawrence Hammond is with Community Preservation Corporation. He runs a program specifically to scale developers that have historically lacked access to capital. So I think he'll bring great insight into making sure we're serving all developers that are looking to develop in Tulsa. Jeff, why don't we go to the next slide?
Yeah, and I'll just echo here. One thing we were, in part of these conversations, how do you create a governing board that has fiduciary responsibility for private funds and ultimately is responsible for the success of the public funding, is how do you bring expertise for something that's new locally? So Tulsa-based, Tulsa-focused, but have some national representation for people that do it for a living and have for many years. And that's where Lawrence and Andrea came in, and just kind of the experience they bring, even though they will never be conflicted because they don't do work directly in the city.
Thanks, Jeff. That's a good thing to put a fine point on. So the loan committee, this is where at least one board member from the Tulsa Housing Impact Fund board, 2 city representatives will sit on this committee, and then there will be other representatives from investment partners like our foundation bank and CDFI partners. Those folks in particular, we're really looking for individuals that hold deep experience in lending and or affordable housing development.
Yeah, and the concept here is that how do you have a consistent group that's reviewing projects? So the staff, and Katie will speak to this in a second, will do all the hard work, so underwrite the projects, receive the applications, ensure feasibility and success from previous projects. But then this committee comes in and makes those actual funding decisions because it's the same group each and every time. I think that what we wanted to try to avoid here is a revolving group, so you're having to educate members of this committee every time a project comes up. And if we get to the success that we expect, they're doing a lot of volume, right? And so if you're there every single time, you're ready to respond to that volume and award a project more quickly. And so how do you have a core group that does that each time was the thought. So.
Thanks, Jeff. Next slide.
Councilman.
Yeah, so in this, I mean, this is where the rubber meets the road,
right.
Loan committee. So on the city council representative, how would the potential project, wherever that may be, that city councilor is involved in that?
Yeah, and Katie,
That
actually
represents
just,
that district.
will you jump to that slide? Actually, we can, sorry, we'll jump to that slide.
This one or the next one?
No, I think it should be one that talks about.
This one.
Go to internal, there should be one on controls. Keep going. Yeah.
There you go, 14.
Yeah, and so what was contemplated here is in having representatives both from city staff as well as a representative that the council would select. It was assumed that it could be a council administrator or staff person, is that they would carry specific roles on this committee. In addition to reviewing the entire project application, they would be charged with connecting with the counselor in the district to ensure that there's any information that's needed to be relayed to the committee, as well as looking at the things that were talked about earlier on as important: availability of infrastructure, zoning, previous compliance, any code issues that are currently outstanding or previous. And I know in previous incentive programs, the counselors have rotated, and part of the conversation here is that if you had a single designee, whether it's a counselor or a staff member, you would create that consistency. But it'd be on that person to then check with all other counselors depending on where the projects came through. We anticipate the fund would be open. I don't know if actually Katie mentioned this, citywide, but there are obviously natural growth areas that we already see in the city, and so there could be repeat counselors being impacted each time.
So this committee, they get the application, do they just vote? It's just the majority? Or do you just, I assume that they would probably vote together if they're
Yeah, I mean, it could be on the project. I mean, like with any governance, there would need to at least be a majority. But there would be a rubric, and that's part of the staff's job, is to make sure that they provided projects or present projects that are already eligible for funding, meaning they meet criteria for eligibility and feasibility, and then it's really determination on available funding.
So we need to select who that person would be.
That's what's being proposed here. And again, it's proposed as a counselor staff because perhaps they have more time and availability, but that's up for discussion. It's not to exclude anybody, but again, it's more about availability and consistency was the concept.
Right, that makes sense. That was a good question, because I know you were, what I was kind of hearing Councilor Harper checking was the whole, for each one of these, would it be district specific and then someone else would hop in, but I could understand for the frame of reference, it being beneficial to be a consistent person. I guess I would be curious about, or I'm naming this to my council colleagues, if there's something where, you know, I get that it makes sense for her to be a staffer. I mean, I'm looking at Sarah right now, and like, I know she's also very busy, but also has a lot of knowledge and expertise from 3H. But I'm wondering if there's a way for us, when we make that appointment, to like, you know, ensure, because if we could ask certain questions, we'd want them to be relaying either those questions or concerns, or ultimately if the council or that counselor had a concern. I'm just trying to think of how we ensure that that's, not that I wouldn't trust.
That voice is heard.
Yeah, that the voice is heard, or that's how like a vote or choice is made, right? That's a lot for the one person at the table to then bring that in with them. So I'm just trying to think of how we can like provide that person with that kind of like structure or with that supporter to be empowered to do that in a more formal way.
And I should clarify, I mean, the intent, obviously that role is incredibly important as you think about where the public dollars going in.
Yeah.
This committee will vote on any dollars.
Any dollars, right.
And so we want to make sure that's weighed equally, so even if it's not public dollars, that the council voices in. But I do think, to your point, there could be a concept, and it had to be discussed by this committee and board. If it's public-only dollars going in, does that voice have a trump card? I mean, that's something that could be discussed, but it is important to know that it's all monies that this committee would decide, not just public. Yeah, if we could, I just want to, because I just help answer that specific question. I think we're there.
This one?
Yeah.
Anything
Advance to
else
the
on
next
this one?
Go ahead, Katie.
Do you want to go to the role, the one before that, roles and responsibilities?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so really quickly, this, again, is just depicting the loan committees there in the middle, but the Tulsa Housing Impact Fund Board really is setting the policies and strategy of the fund, and then they've delegated authority to the loan committee. Again, we just went over the loan committee is really the decision-making body with that delegated authority around the individual project investments. And the staff are doing the day-to-day work. So they're using the policies, they're using all the detailed rubric around how to evaluate the project. They're putting together a package that is sent to the loan committee ahead of time to review the project, and then they will present each project to the loan committee for approval.
And I will lead in here and echo the value of selecting a national entity is that their staff do this every day. And I think you may have seen an earlier slide, HPN administers about $85 million in lending annually, and so to have staff to be able to underwrite that volume was important. So.
Councilor Dr. Wright?
Thank you. So because they do that, Jeff, how do other cities structure it with the community voice, which really, we're just the amplifier of the people we represent? It's not necessarily like we need an elected official at the table, but I think what I'm hearing is we need community voice at the table.
Right, and I think a lot of it's how that's collected, and a question that could be posed is, how was community engagement done by the developer prior to them applying, or as a part of applying for funding? I mean, there's a little bit of nuance on as a lender or grantor of funds, where do you weigh in on that versus that coming in separately? I do think that's the value of having that representation on the committee to ensure if that hasn't been done, what does that look like? Again, noting that zoning and site control, all these other public forums would be a part of it.
Yeah, the challenge is, right, we talked about if zoning is already where it needs to be, there isn't that. And so
Sure.
we've definitely seen in District 1, but some other districts where the zoning's already there and community voice feels like they're not heard because there wasn't a forum to do that. And I think Councilor Bingle has also experienced that. So on the loan side, especially if it's public, that would be a place to engage community in the process and bring them along. I think those of us who have had to do those nuanced conversations have gotten to a place, right? But if you look historically over the last few years, when that process has gone around community, it does not go well.
Yeah,
So,
I know, and not to speak for HCM, but Katie could probably chime in, you know, the intent is definitely not, and how does community engagement is typically a part of that rubric for evaluating project
yeah, I think,
readiness.
I just wanna say, and it's not, I'm not directing this
Sure,
at you.
no.
When you put people who are not held accountable directly to the public in positions of making these decisions.
Sure.
It can become very bureaucratic and very, we know better than you. And a bit of, we'll make decisions about you without you, so.
TDA.
We have very specific examples that we can point to. I don't think that's the intent here. I think what we've seen with HPN and how they have showed up in other communities convinced us we should go down this route. Nine of us might not all be here even a year or two from now, and I just wanna make sure as we're scaffolding it for us, knowing the history of distrust in this community, especially certain parts of the community. District 1 certainly, but out in District 6 we've had it, District 5's had it, so I don't know what's gone on in Greenville and, other cities if they have that distrust, but we do have a long-established distrust specifically of this city as it pertains to land development. So I just really do want to amplify the concern I'm hearing here and make sure that we have not just you need to engage the community developer, but maybe like you need to do it in a way that includes the elected representative for that city and or whoever in the mayor's office is designated to do this work. So that it can't just be kind of we check the box, 3 people came on a random Tuesday night and move it along.
That's right, no, that's a very good point, absolutely.
Going around the elected officials, they don't get to do that.
That's right.
People chose their voice.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than saying, how come my counselor didn't even know anything about it or tell me about it? So,
That's right.
Well, and then not just forgetting, but intentionally. That's something that I'm
Avoiding
dealing
it.
with right
That's
now
right.
with the Greenwood Legacy CDC.
We're not to be
Intentionally going
We're
around.
not to be managed.
Right, no, that's right, that's really
You
good
don't
point.
get to go around the voice that's been elected.
Yeah.
Director Bullmatch, did you have something? Were you going to say something? Okay.
Nope, I'm just nodding,
Okay.
listening
Yeah.
and taking notes, sorry.
We can,
Yes,
Katie, you want to
yep.
continue?
Okay, so how developers will access the funds, so this was key to driving the design of the process. In talking to developers, we just heard that, the ease of applying for funds and knowing that they can apply on a rolling basis was really important. And also knowing that many of these projects will need more than just grant capital, they're also gonna be looking for debt capital. We found it an efficient way by centralizing the application process. So the way that it will work is developers will be able to submit application for all the capital needs they have for their project, and then it's an iterative process. So the application does not just kind of go into a box and sit there and then to be reviewed. It's really, once that initial kind of application is put in, it begins conversations with the loan officer where really making sure that the products that they are looking for really match the needs of the project, and really also to weigh how much they need in grant capital, how much they need in debt capital in the project, and that's meant to be a collaborative process. So we will take in the applications, the loan officer will work with the developer, they will go through the evaluation process and provide a write-up on the financial products that are proposed, and then that is what goes to loan committee. Once a project is approved by loan committee, we can issue a commitment, and that commitment then allows the developer to move forward knowing those those funds will be coming in. The funds will actually be deployed based on the needs and timeline of the project. So there may be opportunities to commit funds, but the funds may not be needed until a construction closing that is several months down the road. So then we manage that process around what funds are committed and when funds need to be deployed.
I have a question. So the funds, until they're deployed, they sit in a bank account, I'm assuming. Do they draw interest, and what happens with all that?
Do you guys want to speak to the city funds?
Sure, I'll try to address it, and then folks can correct me if I'm wrong. But what we're talking about, so simultaneously with this, while we're presenting to the Council for the Economic Incentive Policy, we're also working with Housing Partnership Network to negotiate contracts for the actual administration of the funds, and that's one of the terms there. And so we settled on there, instead of just if and when the council appropriates, say, the $14 million, instead of saying, here's $14 million, that's one extreme. The other extreme would be they have to come to the city every time they need a check. So we're working on some compromise there where as they commit to loans, they would report quarterly, and then those funds would be transferred on kind of a quarterly basis. So the funds would sit in general funds as they're appropriated but not spent until they're spent kind of on a quarterly basis, and then depending on demand, if and when we need, we can kind of go to that bond question. So does that sort of answer your question?
Now, the private dollars would be invested and managed by HPN, and that's what their board has fiduciary responsibility over.
Okay.
There's two things I'd add on here before we move forward. One is the single application. For those that do housing development know that to get GAP funding is hard, mostly because the timelines are all over the place, whether it's local, state, or federal. And so we'll have one single application to access either debt or grants is important. And then again, the rolling basis is really important just because of those same timelines. And it's the same structure you saw in Columbus and Charlotte.
I think, and in the interest of time, I'll keep moving, but this is just a depiction of the other types of products. So those private funds that are coming into the fund will be going out through a variety of financial products, and so that's what's depicted here. And these are in addition to the ILT3 funds. So you can see where developers will have a wide variety of access to capital that hopefully fills the need that they're seeing in their project. Next slide, Jeff. Actually, in this slide, I think this is depicted in the policy, so I probably don't have to review this, but this is again just speaking to the four buckets that the funds have been divided into. Jeff, the next slide, I believe we spoke to, I don't know if we want to stop on it again, but this speaks to the role of the city representative on the committee. So again, this is outlined in the policy, but really looking for the city representatives in particular to be able to review for the key factors around infrastructure capacity and zoning, applicants' track record and property management compliance, and prior use of public funds.
So a voice but not a vote.
No, they carry a vote on the committee.
No, I mean, I'm sorry. The city councilor that is consulted wouldn't be able to vote, but the representative would be the one doing the voting.
I don't want to speak for Sarah. I took it as a conduit of the representative city councilor.
Okay, so
Next slide. So this speaks a little bit to the funds. So the majority of funds will likely go out as grant capital and meant to stay in the project and will not be returned. They're filling true gaps. But there will be times where funding can be returned back to the city. And this slide illustrates that the funds are moving from the city into the project. And to the extent funds are returned, for example, if it's in a subordinate 15-year loan in a LIHTC project and cash flow does allow for some of that subordinate loan to be paid back, those funds have come back to the city where they could be considered for redeployment. But just wanted to highlight that those funds, any funds that are coming back, will go back to the city.
Yeah, fairly
And
standard.
then
Go ahead, Katie.
and the last slide is on reporting. So a key part of the administration of these funds is to provide a feedback loop and transparency back to the committee. So there will be monthly reports and summaries submitted back to the city. There will be more extensive quarterly reports. And then we plan to come back to council twice a year to report on progress, outcomes, and compliance. That was the end of the slides, Jeff.
Any additional questions or comments?
Just an update.
And a lot of the information that Katie and Jeff went over is in that document. So that would be attached to a resolution. We would put the resolution on committee next week. You could vote on it next week if you wanted to. Katie will be in town next week. We didn't want to kind of rush it all the same day. So we wanted to have her present to you today so that we had opportunity to make any changes or corrections or updates before next week.
And then just an additional next step is the appropriation, which will,
Right.
the $14 million that Sarah talked about earlier, will be coming soon.
Was that on the 19th as well?
I have not received it yet from the mayor's agenda, but as soon as it comes from the mayor's agenda, is it on
Yeah,
today's?
It's on today's agenda.
So it would be on.
That's a lot for the 19th.
It would be on, yes, there's a lot going on. It would be on first reading.
So I do appreciate 2 slide decks and
On the 19th.
lots of presentation today. Is it necessary that we do all of the 14 in one fell swoop?
But the caveat is they can't sign the contract with, well, all 14. Well, that's how many votes do you want, I guess is the question. Knowing that it's not leaving the city coffers until they actually have projects that have been approved by the committee, which the city has voice on to
Yeah.
deploy.
So that has been decided? He presented earlier as if that was an option. Has that been
A
decided?
negotiation?
Well, I mean, nothing's been
That it will come
signed.
back before.
Right.
So the current draft contract, which is working its way through Housing Partnership Network and THIF attorneys and city legal, that's the contemplation of the quarterly draws essentially, that Housing Partnership Network then provides to the developers on a construction schedule. So that's where we're at now. That's our recommendation to the mayor and to the council.
Can I
What do
read?
they want?
Sorry.
Well, the Housing Partnership Network originally wanted us to grant $14 million when it was appropriated. So this was the compromise that we settled on, as opposed to granting it all at once, doling it out check by check. This was kind of what we thought was a real good compromise. Quarterly, they will be making monthly reporting, so we will know what's going on, and then they will draw it out on construction.
And I can tell you with the developer outreach we've already received, which again, it's not open for business, we expect that to be more. Obviously, next week is a press conference that will be open for intake and active outreach. That there's a likelihood that $14 million can be at least evaluated or absorbed or obligated for.
Bid quickly.
I mean, there's need, there's a gap out there.
There's a lot of projects.
That's right.
Potential.
Jeff, isn't there a timeline regarding low-income housing tax credits
Yeah.
that's
And so-
sorted as well?
For the state finance agency to apply for competitive tax credits, the application's in January, and if you have gaps, you have to submit a feasible project, meaning you've covered all your gaps. And so, while they don't need the money in January, typically what they seek in gap funding is a commitment letter. Well, as any good funder, it's hard for Katie and HPN and the fund to say, well, yeah, sure, we're gonna give you $3 million if they don't actually have $3 million, so to speak. And so part of that idea of having them at least approved or appropriated the 14, even if the money's not going out the door, is they can then actually entertain projects and issue these types of LOIs you would see normally from a bank. And so they don't miss those deadlines. They miss January, you then lose 6 months for some of those projects.
Yeah. Jeff got one of my things and then the second thing was, you did, just rewinding a little bit, and I didn't go over this. In the budget process, this was actually scheduled to appropriate all 14 million, and you as a body decided to not make that appropriation so you could get through the economic incentive policy, get through the third-party administration contract, and make sure those were actually meeting what we told the community these funds would do before you made that appropriation. And so that's why we haven't asked that you make that appropriation before you saw the economic incentive policy and before the vendor was selected.
And the plan is then to come back in July, assuming everything goes well. We expect there to be more demand. We'll come back in July to request appropriation for the 19 million, which would be available July 1st. So the council will have several bites at the decision if and when to appropriate funds to Housing Partnership Network. And then if there's huge demand, we'll then revisit the bonding question. If Housing Partnership Network opens for business and there's $50 million worth of requests, we obviously are only appropriating 14. if it's seen that the demand will be needed before the 19 million, then we would come back and revisit the bonding question. And again, council would have an opportunity to decide at that point.
Councilor Dector Wright and Councilor Hall Harper.
Thank you. On the quarterly distributions, will we get a report here at this table when they're made and where we are on project costs and all that stuff?
It's part of the monthly reporting and then the same annual presentations will be a part of it.
Yeah, quarterly written reports.
We know that there's demand and there's need. I think what you're hearing some hesitation around this table is we want to make sure that there's transparency in the process. We have no idea, I'll speak for myself, I have no idea where these projects are being focused in on. During the 3H task force, we had talked about looking at parts of town that have the infrastructure or have public transportation or these other amenities. I never saw a report of where those areas are. I'm imagining, it's been, I know, the developer community knows these dollars are out there, they're waiting, and I imagine there's already negotiations or incentives being offered. What we don't know is where, how much, what community. I think there's talks going on, because I've gotten emails from developers saying, we're in talks. So, it's important that transparency is key. This is a huge undertaking for the citizens of Tulsa to have invested in this way, and we've got to get it right. I think we've been careful. I think we're bringing in a national partner that's trusted. But I think that's what I'm hearing, hesitancy around the table. I know for myself as well, because once the dollars are appropriated, they just start going.
On the infrastructure and that mapping, Travis, can you talk a little bit about the RFI mapping that was done for those projects, just so the counselors can kind of get a little bit of a flavor of what the city representative would bring to the table in evaluating these? Can you talk about that project?
Yeah, so if you remember, we issued a request for information to kind of better understand who's looking at projects, who has sites, where are they at in their process, and do they know, is it a loan, is it a grant, is it infrastructure? Because, we talked about those things at a high level in 3H for a long time, but just tell us. So we took that information, and I can't remember
It was like
numbers.
five people, right?
5 people?
Was it, how many responded?
Oh, there was more than
85, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, quite a bit more than that. So we took all of that, and then we worked with our infrastructure team to start to look at, okay, they've identified potential projects in these areas. Let's start to really understand what is infrastructure, to your point, in capacity. Is it there? Is it not there? If it is.
Well, that's why we put the 25 in.
Right.
Is the thought, we'll fast track these projects that don't need infrastructure, and then the next tranche, we'll start getting into the 25 or no? Can we use some of these for infrastructure?
So I think there's some, questions we had on, could, in theory, Katie get HB get an application from a developer and they have a gap of 3 million and they point to the gap because of site work and infrastructure? Well, then there's nothing against that, so
Literally
that they
have that
need
example in my district right now.
I think there is some hope, from a lot of us that the 25 million dedicated infrastructure comes on sooner because of projects like the one in your district and we see across North Tulsa where that's known impediments.
Yeah.
And typically, depending on how they're built, that has to be done first before they can even get their financing for the,
Right.
for the.
So what percentage is contemplated of this 14 that would be dedicated to infrastructure? Or is there not a
Currently
contemplation?
none. We're having ongoing conversations with the infrastructure team, water and sewer and public works and roadways about timing, and they have their own plans and budgets, and so they have not identified an immediate need. We're having regular ongoing conversations with them to figure out where that 25 goes.
And to kind of tail on that, where those projects are and what the priority of investment is for those infrastructure projects. That's important.
We haven't gotten a report on that.
Also, on this first tranche, are we prioritizing permanent, supportive, and affordable? Because that's, on the 3H task force and under the previous administration, we felt strongly that the market would come to do the market rate and luxury.
Yeah, the
So
resolution
I don't think
caps.
anyone here wants to see us incentivizing those projects, even on an infrastructure side.
Yeah, the resolution caps 120% AMI with anything that's considered true grant, not loan, at 60% and below, which is affordable and
Okay.
believe. I do think, not to get too nerdy here, permanent supportive is really hard right now based on the economics and really the voucher situation, which you
Okay.
need that operating support in addition to the capital, and these are capital-only dollars.
But affordable and workforce.
But affordable and workforce is absolutely the priority of the fund. Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
And do any of these dollars apply for redevelopment or conversion?
Yeah, rehab
The
preservation is
rehab
absolutely a
dollars.
component of it, that's right.
Okay.
Of the
Council,
14
Councilor Hall
million,
Harper.
that's, you said that'll be available this year. The 19 million you mentioned, when will that be available?
Next fiscal year, so July 1, you can go ahead and appropriate what we
So, the same
are
time, basically.
projected. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, July, so these, as soon as you pass the budget amendment, would be available for the 14.
Okay.
The 19, if you decide to appropriate that in your next budget process, then on July 1, we can contract those funds as well.
So
they
33
been
million in
collected?
the next 7 months.
You can, we're expected to collect 19 million in next fiscal year, and so
Okay.
just like in anything else we budget,
We can
we can
spend
go
ahead.
ahead and expend those, yeah.
It's my kind of budget.
Counselor Dutton.
So on the first slides that you brought,
Mhm.
and priority 5 talked about rehabbing, which follows basically what Councilor Dr. Wright had talked about.
The reduce vacant and abandoned
Yes.
properties,
Do we have information where we are in that capacity?
I think, so, do you wanna talk about some of the work on?
Sure. I can talk a little bit. There was a law that was passed in this last legislative session, House Bill 2147, that essentially enables the city, after a series of liens are accumulated for like abatements, to pursue a foreclosure process, that we kind of move that property into like, productive use. And so we're working on the ordinance that you all would need to adopt in order to make that active. But written into this policy is some language that would potentially allow for some of that rehabilitation funding. There's $5 million in rehabilitation funding that's proposed in this $5 million. And so for some of that to be used to do some rehabs on those kind of properties that are vacant and abandoned properties. So there's another step that we'll be talking about probably next month regarding how that state law can be implemented locally. But this could potentially be used, that $5 million could be potentially used for those rehabs of those vacant and abandoned properties.
But it could also be used for developers applying or individuals applying for rehabilitating existing properties.
Yes. Right, it doesn't necessarily have to
Right,
be.
it doesn't have to be just for,
And so we'll know what districts, what areas, those
so
properties.
just like everything else through HPN, it'll go through the loan committee, and the loan committee will have 2 staff members, one from council and one from mayor's office, who then would be obligated to report back to the counselor in whose district that is, and yes.
And I have just one more question,
Please.
So if the homes are vacant, but they're still, the owners are paying the property taxes on them, I mean, how are we looking at dealing with those type of vacancies?
Yeah, so that would be, the law that I talked about, that would be in the case where we're doing abatement. So like the grass is growing up every summer and we're having to do several abatements, those kind of things. As far as like a house that is just vacant but not having abatements, there really isn't like a mechanism for that necessarily. But one of the things that we have talked about though is, can we just start reaching out to some of those property owners and saying, are you planning on doing anything with this property? There's nothing from an enforcement perspective we can do, as long as it's boarded and secured. But if there are abatements happening, if the property isn't being maintained, or if it's dilapidated, then we do have a path for moving forward and getting that owner to do something. But just a vacant property that is maintained and is secured isn't
Right.
necessarily like
And then the process for that abatement timeline would be what, 3 years?
Well, that's the reason for this House Bill 2147, is to potentially move that up. because-
ahead of us on all your
Yeah,
questions.
that's-
Sorry.
So we'll
You're
be-
doing-
yeah, we'll be
No,
talking
these are
about
good,
this
these are the
in
questions
about a
you
month.
should ask, but.
Yeah, that's right, because right now, yes, you may be aware that it's a 3-year time period for lack of payment for ad valorem taxes and the abatements, which become part of the ad valorem tax. And so after 3 years, then it goes to a tax sale. And so part of the challenge to that is that sometimes owners will just pay the oldest year and then keep it from being on the tax sale, and then that process continues again. So we're gonna be bringing you some examples of properties where that's occurring, and it's causing that property to be a nuisance to the neighborhood, but also never really getting to a new ownership situation. So we're working on that.
So at the habitability work group has a meeting in December, and we're gonna bring some of these examples and this proposed process to that group, and then obviously it will come to full council later on as well. It's just, we're doing this first, and then we're doing that.
Well, you hope that with this
Yeah.
capital fund, that you now have a resource to tap for gap funding for people that actually want to go out and reactivate these parcels, because right now that's been hard to get.
I have a question. Well, no, you keep on
Oh,
going.
okay, I just want to tell you all how much I appreciate the slides and the presentation, and the ability for us to follow along and actually see some transparency. I appreciate that.
Wonderful. I had a question concerning the, were you gonna say something?
Oh, no, I'm gonna recap at the
Oh,
end,
okay,
so
great.
you keep asking your
Yes,
questions.
so, on the slide where it says Tulsa Housing Impact Fund Structure, HPN's going after banks, CDFIs, foundations, this part, versus governments, obviously we are putting in our, funds. What is engaging Tulsa County or, other, municipalities look like in this process?
Yeah, I will say the fund is only going to deploy within the city of Tulsa. We would love for Tulsa County to be engaged. We haven't done that yet.
Okay.
We worked on, I don't think anything's low-hanging fruit. We've had a really good fundraise with local foundations. We've had really great conversations with local banks. Katie mentioned some really encouraging and progressing conversations with national foundations and national banks. Part of our hope next week, and hope all you all can attend at the press conference, is kind of that call for action, so others to come in and invest. But yeah, I mean, obviously we'd love for the county to be more engaged in this, we just haven't yet. I don't think any of us can speak to what's out there on federal funding, but to the extent it makes sense, I think we'd absolutely apply for it.
Makes sense or exists?
No, yeah, that's right.
Sarah?
If there's not any other questions, I think just the recap I got, obviously, many more future conversations about infrastructure as we get to that point. We're just not at that point today. On the community voice, maybe seeing how we can strengthen a little bit that language regarding community voice, and that being a very intentional process that can include the elected official in that community engagement process. And then just on the monthly reporting, I honestly.
Quarterly, I think, when they're making that payments.
Right. It may say to the city, maybe we just also specifically say, and to the city council in that, just so it's really clear, because to the city could be one of 4,000 people. So maybe we'll just double check. I just can't remember that language off the top of my head. So
Maybe we can just put a report on small budget.
sure,
bring
but
it
just
figure.
make sure that we get that report.
Yeah, it actually says quarterly written reports and semi-annual presentations to the council.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The monthly reporting, I think, was more kind of administrative, but it can be up to like the council representative to update the staff. I think it was intended not necessarily a council meeting update, but just kind of internal administrative updates, because I don't think we want to draw Housing Partnership Network staff away from their hard work to be at these meetings on a monthly basis.
I think
If it's
we can put
appropriated in the
that.
budget, then we can monitor it through the monthly budget meetings, can we not?
Right, and we can put that obligation on the council to make sure we get those reports
On a
to
monthly
you all
basis.
on the monthly.
On a monthly, then they'll do quarterly and annual.
With
Yeah.
the distribution?
But that,
We
on
can-
a monthly basis, we can, 4 of us at least, in
Yeah.
that budget meeting can look and.
I'm not worried about as long as those are received, I'm not worried about trying how to get those to you all. We can make sure we get those to you all.
All right. What is for lunch, Sarah?
We have to adjourn first.
Yes.
Tacos.
Oh, that's great. So,
Let's go.
that's right. So,
Taco Wednesday.
agenda item number 11, we are done.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank
Safe
you.
day.
Don't spit on you.